and grabbed his bag. Through the small window, he could see Station Helion for the first time. It was massive, bigger than any city on Earth. Lights blinked across, its surface like 1,000 eyes watching him. He was the first human to ever set foot in the Galactic Military Academy. Earth had fought for 50 years just to get a seat at the table. Politicians had argued. Diplomats had begged. And finally, after decades of being treated like children by the older species, humanity had earned one spot. Just one. Taiho was that spot. The airlock opened with a hiss. Cold air hit his face. It smelled wrong, like metal and chemicals, and something else he could not name. He stepped forward into the arrival hall. A dozen species stood waiting. Some had scales. Some had too many eyes. Some had no faces at all. They all turned to look at him. Nobody spoke. Taiho walked toward the processing desk. His boots echoed on the floor. The silence felt heavy, like a weight pressing down on his chest. He kept his face calm. He had practiced this. Show nothing. Give them nothing. Name, said the officer at the desk. It was a tall creature with gray skin and 4 arms. Its voice was flat and bored. Kong Taiho, Earth, Terran Union. The officer looked at him for a long moment. Then it laughed. The sound was dry and ugly. The human, it said. I thought you would be bigger. Taiho said nothing. He waited. The officer handed him a small card. Cadet Quarters, Level 7. Your room assignment is on the card. Orientation begins tomorrow at 600. Do not be late. Taiho took the card and walked away. He could feel eyes following him. He heard whispers in languages he did not understand. But he kept walking. Level 7 was far from the main areas. The hallways grew darker and narrower as he climbed. When he finally found his room number, he understood why it was not a room. It was a storage closet. The space was barely large enough for a small bed and a locker. There was no window. The walls were stained with old rust. A single light flickered above the door. Taiho stood in the doorway for a moment. Then he walked inside and dropped his bag on the bed. He had slept in worse places during training on Earth. This was nothing. He unpacked his few belongings. A change of clothes. A small photo of his family. A warm book his mother had given him before he left. He placed the photo on the small shelf above the bed and sat down. He was here. That was what mattered. The next morning, Taiho arrived at orientation early. The hall was large and filled with cadets from dozens of species. He found a seat in the back and waited. A tall insectoid creature walked to the front of the room. It had black armor-like skin and long antennae that moved constantly. Its eyes were dark and empty, like holes in its face. I am Instructor Vel, it said. Its voice clicked and buzzed. I am your senior combat instructor. For the next 2 years, I will train you. I will test you. And most of you will fail. Vel's eyes moved across the room and stopped on Taiho. Some of you should not be here at all. A few cadets laughed. Taiho did not react. The Academy has standards, Vel continued. We do not lower them for anyone. If you cannot keep up, you will be removed. There are no exceptions. After orientation, Taiho went to the mess hall. He needed food. The journey from Earth had been long, and he had not eaten well on the transport. The mess hall was crowded. Cadets sat in groups, talking and eating. When Taiho entered, conversation stopped. Heads turned. Then, slowly, everyone looked away and pretended he was not there. He got his food. A strange paste that smelled like nothing and looked for a place to sit. Every table was full. When he approached, cadets shifted to fill empty seats. The message was clear. He found a small table in the corner and sat alone. You should not be here. Taiho looked up. A young woman stood across from him. She was human. Her uniform was different from the cadets. Supply officer, he guessed. I am Yuna, she said. I work in logistics. Taiho. She sat down across from him, ignoring the looks from nearby tables. I have been on this station for 2 years. I know how they treat outsiders. And you are more than an outsider. You are a symbol. A symbol of what? Everything they hate. Change. Competition. The idea that humans might be their equals. Yuna leaned closer. They will try to break you. Not because they need to. Because they want to. They want to prove that Earth made a mistake sending you here. Taiho ate his food slowly. Then I will not break. Yuna shook her head. You do not understand. Cadets have died here. Accidents, they call them. Training incidents. No one investigates. No one cares. She looked at him with worried eyes. Go home, Taiho, while you still can. I cannot. Why? Because if I leave, no human will ever stand here again. They will say we are too weak, too soft. And Earth will wait another 100 years for a chance that may never come. Taiho put down his spoon. I am not here for myself. I am here for everyone who comes after me. Yuna was quiet for a moment. Then she stood up. Then be careful. Trust no one. And watch your back. She walked away. That night, Taiho returned to his room. The door was open. He stepped inside and stopped. Everything was destroyed. His clothes were torn. His book was ripped apart, pages scattered across the floor. The photo of his family was cracked, the glass broken into pieces. On the wall, someone had carved words in a language he did not know. But he understood the meaning. Go home. Meet. Taiho stood very still. He looked at the destruction around him. He felt anger rise in his chest, hot and sharp. But he pushed it down. He buried it deep. He picked up the pieces of the photo and carefully removed the broken glass. The image was still there. His mother, his father, his little sister. They were smiling. He placed the photo back on the shelf. Then he cleaned his room. He gathered the torn clothes in the ruined book. He wiped the wall clean. It took him 3 hours. When he was done, he lay down on his bed and closed his eyes. Tomorrow would be harder. He knew that. They would push him. They would hurt him. They would try everything to make him quit. But Kang Taiho had not come this far to fail. Earth had not sacrificed so much for him to give up on the first night. He would endure. He would survive. And one day, they would understand what a terrible mistake they had made. The first week was designed to kill him. Taiho understood that now. While other cadets trained in normal conditions, Instructor Vel created special tests just for the human. The training room would suddenly become freezing cold, then burning hot within minutes. The gravity would double without warning, making Taiho's bones feel like they would crack. When other cadets slept for 8 hours, Taiho was woken every 2 hours for surprise drills. Humans are fragile, Vel announced during combat training. They have only one heart, one set of lungs. No armor, no claws. They break easily. He looked at Taiho. We must see how easily. The other cadets watched and laughed. A large reptilian cadet named Ren laughed loudest of all. He was twice Taiho's size, covered in dark green scales that looked like armor. His eyes were yellow and cruel. How long do you think the meet will last? Ren asked his friends. I give him 10 days. 5, said another. They made bets. They did not try to hide it. Taiho said nothing. He completed his drills. He fell when the gravity crushed him. He shook when the cold froze his muscles. But he always got back up. After training each day, he returned to his small room. Sometimes his things were destroyed again. Sometimes waste was left on his bed. Once, He found insects inside his food container, small creatures that bit and stung. He cleaned everything. He found new food. He never complained. The second week, the attacks became physical. It started small. A foot stuck out to trip him during runs. A shoulder that hit him hard in the hallways. Laughs and insults in languages he was slowly learning to understand. Then it got worse. Someone put chemicals in his water. Not enough to kill him, but enough to make him sick for 2 days. He vomited until there was nothing left. His body shook with fever, but he still showed up to training. He could barely stand, but he was there. Instructor Vel watched him struggle through drills while sick. The insectoid's antennae moved slowly. A sign Taiho had learned meant interest. The human is stubborn, Vel said. Like an animal that does not know when to die. The other cadets laughed. But some of them were not laughing as loud as before. Taiho began to adapt. He learned to eat less, so there was less they could poison. He studied the station's map until he knew every corridor, every shortcut, every hidden path. When Ren and his friends waited for him in one hallway, Taiho went another way. He started waking up 2 hours before everyone else. In the darkness of the early morning, he trained alone. Push-ups, running, combat moves he had learned on Earth. His body grew harder. His mind was sharper. Yuna found him one morning in the empty training room. She watched him from the doorway, her face full of worry. You are getting thinner, she said. I am getting stronger. You are killing yourself. Taiho stopped his exercises and looked at her. Sweat ran down his face. Dark circles surrounded his eyes. No, they are trying to kill me. There's a difference. Yuna walked closer. Why do you keep going? Any normal person would have quit by now. No one would blame you. Taiho was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke. On Earth, there is a story. A long time ago, our ancestors lived on open plains. They were not the fastest animals, not the strongest. They had no claws or fangs. But they had one thing nothing else had. What? They could keep going. Other animals would run fast, but then they had to stop. Humans just kept walking. Hour after hour. Day after day. They would follow their prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. Taiho picked up his water bottle. That is what we are. We are the species that does not stop. Yuna did not seem comforted. That is a scary story. Yes, it is. 3 weeks passed. Taiho was still there. The whispers began to change. Cadets who had bet against him lost their money. Some of them started watching him differently. Not with respect, not yet. But with something like curiosity. This made Ren angry. One night, Taiho was walking back to his room through a maintenance corridor. It was a route he had used many times to avoid trouble. But tonight, Ren was waiting for him. The big reptilian stood in the middle of the hallway. 2 of his friends blocked the path behind Taiho. There was nowhere to run. You think you are smart, Ren said. His voice was low and dangerous. You think you can hide from us forever. Taiho stopped walking. He said nothing. I'm tired of watching you crawl around this station like a bug. Ren stepped closer. Tonight, I am going to teach you what happens to species that do not know their place. Taiho did not move. He did not raise his hands. He simply stood there. Ren's fist came fast and hard. It hit Taiho across the face with a sound like breaking wood. Taiho fell against the wall. Blood poured from a cut above his eye, but he did not fall down. He pushed himself off the wall and stood straight again. Ren stared at him. Then he hit him again. And again. Taiho took every blow. His body screamed with pain. His vision blurred with blood. But he did not fight back. He did not beg. He did not cry. He just kept standing up. After the 5th time Taiho rose from the floor, Ren hesitated. Something was wrong. This was not how it was supposed to go. The human should be crying, should be begging for mercy, should be broken. But the human just stood there, blood running down his face, and stared at Ren with eyes that held no fear. Only patience. Only something dark and deep that Ren did not understand. For the first time in his life, Ren felt uncomfortable. He took a step back. "This is not over," he said. But his voice was not as strong as before. He walked away. His friends followed. Taiho stood alone in the corridor. His body shook with pain. He could barely see through the blood. But he was still standing. From the shadows at the end of the hallway, Instructor Vel watched in silence. His antennae were completely still. He had seen many things in his long career. He had broken cadets from warrior species with 1,000 years of military history, but he had never seen anything like this. For the first time, the instructor felt something he did not like. Something that felt almost like doubt. He turned and walked away, his mind full of questions about the strange, stubborn creature called human. Word spread through the station like fire. The human was still standing. After weeks of everything they threw at him, the human from Earth refused to break. Cadets whispered about it in the hallways. Officers discussed it over meals. Even the maintenance workers talked about the strange Terran who would not quit. Some cadets began to look at Taiho with different eyes. Not friendly, but not hateful either. They watched him in training, studied his movements, wondered what made him keep going when any reasonable creature would have surrendered. Few even nodded at him when they passed in the corridors. Small gestures. Tiny acknowledgments. But they meant something. This made Instructor Vel furious. He called Taiho to his office one evening. The room was dark and cold, filled with trophies from Vel's long career. Bones and weapons hung on the walls. Metal sat in glass cases. Everything spoke of power and death. "Sit," Vel commanded. Taiho sat. Vel circled around him slowly. His legs made clicking sounds on the metal floor. "You have become a problem, human. The other cadets are starting to wonder about you. Some of them are asking questions I do not like." Taiho said nothing. "They are asking why you have not broken. They are asking if perhaps humans are not as weak as we believed." Vel stopped in front of him. "This cannot continue. I have done nothing wrong," Taiho said quietly. "I follow every rule. I complete every test." "Yes, you do." Vel's dark eyes showed no emotion. "That is the problem." He walked to his desk and picked up a data tablet. "Tomorrow, you will take the Forge test." Taiho had heard of the Forge. Every cadet had. It was the most brutal survival test in the academy, a final exam meant only for senior cadets in their last year. Many failed it. Some died. "The Forge is for final year cadets," Taiho said. "I am making an exception." Vel's mandibles clicked together in what might have been a smile. "You want to prove humans belong here? Then prove it. Survive the Forge. When do I prepare?" "You do not. You begin tomorrow morning. 48 hours in a hostile environment. No weapons. No help. No rules." Vel set down the tablet. "Most cadets train for months before attempting the Forge. You will have tonight." Taiho understood. This was not a test. This was an execution. "I will be there," he said. The Forge was a massive simulation chamber deep inside the station. It could create any environment, any terrain, any threat. For Taiho's test, they created a jungle. Hot, wet air filled his lungs as he stepped inside. The door sealed behind him with a heavy sound. Immediately, he heard movement in the trees above. Predators. The simulation was full of them. He had no weapons. No armor. No food or water. Only his body and his mind. The first 12 hours were the hardest. He learned which plants were safe to eat by watching what the smaller creatures avoided. He found water by following animal tracks to a stream. When predators came, he climbed trees or hid in mud or ran until his legs burned. He was bitten twice. Something with too many legs cut his arm badly. His feet bled from the rough ground, but he kept moving. At 24 hours, he built a small shelter in a cave. He rested for 2 hours, then moved again. Staying in one place meant death. At 36 hours, a pack of 6-legged hunters found his trail. He ran for 3 hours straight, leading them into a ravine where he climbed a cliff face they could not follow. His fingers bled. His muscles screamed. But he reached the top. At 48 hours, the time limit Vel had given, Taiho was still alive. But he did not stop. The door had not opened. The test was not over. He kept going. At 60 hours, he killed one of the predators with a sharp rock. He had watched them for days, learning their movements, their weaknesses. When one came too close, he struck at its throat before it could react. That night, he ate meat for the first time in days. At 72 hours, the simulation finally ended. The jungle disappeared, replaced by the cold metal walls of the chamber. The exit door opened. Taiho walked out. A crowd had gathered. Cadets, officers, even some workers had come to see if the human had survived. They stared in shock as Taiho emerged. He looked terrible. Blood covered his arms and legs. His uniform was torn to pieces. His face was swollen from bites and cuts. One of his eyes was nearly closed from an injury, but he was walking. Instructor Vel stood at the front of the crowd. His antennae were frozen in place. He had expected to collect the body, not watch a living human walk out after 72 hours in conditions designed to kill. Taiho walked past him without a word. He took 3 more steps, then collapsed. Yuna pushed through the crowd and caught him before he hit the ground. "Someone help me," she screamed. "Get a medic." For 3 days, Taiho lay in the medical bay. The doctors were amazed he was alive. His injuries should have killed most species. But humans, they learned, had remarkable healing abilities when they were allowed to rest. On the 4th day, Commandant Mira visited him. She was tall and pale, with large black eyes that seemed to see everything. She was the highest authority in the academy. "You survived the forge," she said. "No first-year cadet has ever done that." Taiho tried to sit up, but winced in pain. "I had no choice." "There is always a choice. You could have given up. You could have pressed the emergency signal and ended the test." She tilted her head. "Why did you not?" "Because giving up was never an option I allowed myself to consider." Mira studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "Rest, Cadet Kang. You have earned it." She left without another word, but peace did not last. Word of Taiho's survival spread across the station. He had done the impossible. He had made fools of everyone who said humans were weak. Ren could not accept this. 1 week later, as Taiho returned to training, Ren stepped forward in front of the entire class. His yellow eyes burned with hatred. "I challenge the human to an honor duel," he announced. "Here, now, in front of everyone." The room went silent. Honor duels were ancient tradition. They could not be refused without disgrace. And they often ended with serious injury or death. Everyone looked at Taiho. He stood slowly. His body still ached from the forge. He was not fully healed. Fighting Ren now would be suicide. "I accept," he said. The arena would decide everything. The central arena had not been this full in years. Cadets packed the viewing platforms. Officers stood along the railings. Even workers abandoned their posts to watch. Everyone on Station Helion knew what was happening today. The human was going to fight. Taiho stood in the preparation room, wrapping cloth around his hands. His body still carried wounds from the forge. His ribs ached when he breathed. His left shoulder was not fully healed. He knew he was not ready for this fight. He did not care. The door opened. Yuna rushed in, her face pale with fear. "You cannot do this," she said. "Ren is twice your size. His scales are like armor. His species has been warriors for 10,000 years. She grabbed his arm. "Taiho, please, withdraw. No one will blame you." He looked at her calmly. "If I run now, no human will ever stand here again. Every species in this galaxy will say that humans are cowards, that we hide when things get difficult." He finished wrapping his hands. "I did not come here to hide. You came here to live." "No." Taiho stood and faced her. "I came here to prove that we belong. And sometimes proving that requires being willing to die." Yuna's eyes filled with tears. She wanted to argue, to drag him away from this place, to save him. But she saw the look in his eyes and knew nothing she said would change his mind. "Then survive," she whispered. "Please, just survive." He nodded once. Then he walked toward the arena. The crowd roared when Taiho stepped onto the fighting floor. But it was not cheering. It was laughing, mocking. They looked at his small body, his soft skin, his obvious injuries, and they saw only a victim waiting to fall. Ren entered from the other side. He was massive. His green scales caught the light like dark jewels. His muscles moved under his skin like coiled snakes. He smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "I am going to enjoy this," he said loud enough for everyone to hear. "I will break every bone in your weak human body. And when you beg me to stop, I will keep going." Taiho said nothing. He took his position in the center of the arena and waited. Instructor Val stood at the edge of the fighting floor. He would oversee the duel. His dark eyes watched Taiho with something that might have been curiosity or hunger. "The rules are simple," Val announced. "Fight until one cannot continue. No weapons. No outside help." His mandibles clicked. "Begin." Ren attacked immediately. He moved faster than something his size should be able to move. His fist came at Taiho like a hammer. Taiho dodged, but barely. The wind from the missed punch was enough to make him stumble. Ren did not stop. He attacked again and again, each blow powerful enough to shatter stone. Taiho ducked, weaved, and retreated. He could not block these attacks. One direct hit would end the fight, but he could not dodge forever. Ren's knee caught Taiho in the stomach. The impact lifted him off the ground and threw him across the arena. He hit the floor hard, the breath exploding from his lungs. The crowd cheered. This was what they wanted. This was what they expected. Taiho got up. Ren frowned. He charged again. His elbow slammed into Taiho's side. The sound of cracking ribs echoed through the arena. Taiho flew backward and crashed into the wall. He fell to his knees. Blood dripped from his mouth. The pain was incredible, like fire burning through his chest. Taiho got up. The crowd grew quieter. Ren hit him again. And again. Each blow was harder than the last. Taiho's shoulder dislocated. A gash opened above his eye, flooding his vision with red. His left leg nearly buckled from a devastating kick. Every time he fell, he got back up. The arena was silent now. No one was laughing anymore. They watched in disbelief as this small, fragile human refused to stay down. He was bleeding from a dozen wounds. His body was breaking, but he kept standing. Ren began to panic. This was wrong. This was not how prey behaved. When you hurt something enough, it stopped moving. It gave up. It accepted death. But this human looked at Ren with eyes that held no surrender. Only patience. Only something cold and terrible that grew stronger with every blow. "Why won't you fall?" Ren screamed. He threw a wild punch, fueled by fear and confusion. Taiho had been waiting for this. He moved. Not away, but forward. Into the attack. Under Ren's arm. He had spent weeks watching, learning. Every species had weaknesses. Even Ren. Taiho's fist hit the soft tissue beneath Ren's jaw where there were no scales. The strike was precise and brutal. Ren's head snapped back. Before he could recover, Taiho struck again. His knee found the nerve cluster behind Ren's leg. The massive reptilian stumbled, his balance broken. Taiho's final blow was to the gap in Ren's scales near his throat. It was a small target, barely the size of a hand. But Taiho had seen it weeks ago and remembered. Ren collapsed. He fell to the floor, gasping for air, his eyes wide with shock. He tried to rise, but his body would not obey. The nerves Taiho had targeted controlled his muscles. They were temporarily paralyzed. The arena was completely silent. Taiho stood over his fallen enemy. By tradition, he could deliver a killing blow now. No one would stop him. No one would blame him. He turned his back and walked away. The silence shattered into chaos. Cadets shouted. Officers argued. No one could believe what they had just witnessed. Instructor Vel stepped into the arena. His face showed nothing, but his antennae were shaking with suppressed emotion. He moved toward Taiho. This duel is void, Vel announced. The human used trickery. He is disqualified. Guards, take him into custody. 2 security officers began moving toward Taiho, but then Taiho stopped walking. He turned slowly to face Vel. His face was covered in blood. His body was broken and damaged. He could barely stand, but something in his eyes had changed. Something old and dark had woken up. Vel froze mid-step. He did not know why. His body simply refused to move closer to this human. Every instinct he had, instincts his species had evolved over millions of years, screamed at him that something was wrong. Something was dangerous. Taiho took a step toward him. Vel took a step back. The entire arena watched as the senior instructor, the legendary warrior who had broken hundreds of cadets, retreated from a bleeding, half-dead human, and everyone understood that something fundamental had just changed. The arena had become a frozen moment in time. No one moved. No one spoke. Every eye watched the impossible scene before them. Instructor Vel, the legendary warrior, the breaker of cadets, stood trembling before a bloody and broken human. 2 security guards waited nearby, unsure what to do. They had been ordered to arrest Taiho, but something in the air made them hesitate. Some ancient warning from deep in their bones told them not to get closer to the human. Taiho took another step toward Vel. His movements were slow and painful. Every breath made his broken ribs scream. Blood continued to drip from his wounds, leaving a red trail behind him, but his eyes were steady, clear, burning with something the aliens had never seen before. You wanted to know about humans, Taiho said. His voice was quiet, but in the silence of the arena, everyone heard him perfectly. You wanted to know if we could be broken. Vel's antennae were pressed flat against his head. A fear response. He could not control it. Let me tell you about my species. Taiho stopped an arm's length from the instructor. Up close, Vel could see every wound on the human's body. The cracked ribs, the dislocated shoulder, the cuts and bruises that covered his skin. He should be unconscious. He should be dead. But he was standing and speaking and staring at Vel with those strange forward-facing eyes that humans had evolved to track prey. We are not old like you, Taiho continued. We have only been in space for a few hundred years. Your species had starships when we were still living in caves. Vel wanted to speak, wanted to order the guards to act, but his voice would not come. But do you know what we were doing in those caves? Taiho tilted his head slightly. We were surviving. We climbed out of an ocean. We stood up on 2 legs and walked across burning plains. We survived ice that covered our world. plagues that killed half our population. Predators that were faster and stronger than us. He took another step. Val stepped back again. The instructor's back was almost against the arena wall now. We did not have armor like you. We did not have claws or fangs or venom. We had nothing but our minds and our refusal to die. Taiho's voice grew harder. So we became the predators. We hunted animals 10 times our size and killed them with sharpened sticks. We tamed fire. We tamed wolves and horses and made them serve us. Every creature that tried to eat us, we either destroyed or made into our pets. The crowd was utterly silent. Many of the alien species had similar histories. They understood what Taiho was describing, but none of them had ever heard it spoken like this. Like a threat. Then we turned on each other. Taiho smiled, and it was not a pleasant smile. We created weapons that could destroy cities in seconds. We fought wars that killed hundreds of millions of our own kind. We invented torture. We perfected cruelty. We did things to each other that would make your nightmares seem peaceful. Vel finally found his voice. You are trying to scare me with stories, am I? Taiho met his eyes. Then why are you shaking? Vel looked down at his own hands. They were trembling. He had not noticed. Do you know what happened to the humans who did those terrible things? Taiho asked. The killers? The monsters? The ones who burned and destroyed? Vel did not answer. They became our heroes. We built statues to them. We wrote songs about their conquests. We taught our children to admire them. Taiho leaned closer. Violence is not something we fear. It is something we celebrate. It is in our blood. It is in our souls. We have been perfecting the art of war since before your species learned to make fire. From her seat high above the arena, Commandant Mira watched with her large black eyes. She was a telepath. She could sense emotions from across the room. What she felt from the human was not rage, not hatred, not even pain. It was something far more disturbing. It was control. Complete, perfect control. The human was holding back something vast and terrible, like a dam holding back an ocean. And he was choosing very deliberately to let a small trickle through, just enough to make his point. You think this is breaking me? Taiho gestured at his wounded body. This is nothing. Humans have survived worse before breakfast. We have been shot, stabbed, burned, frozen, starved, and tortured. And we keep coming back. He was close enough now to touch Val. The instructor pressed against the wall, unable to retreat further. I am not trapped here with you. Instructor. Taiho's voice dropped to a whisper. You are trapped here with me. And somewhere deep in your brain, in the part that still remembers what it was like to be hunted, you know it? Val could not move. His body had locked up completely. His ancient predator instincts had taken control, and they were screaming one message. Danger. Run. Hide. Do not challenge this creature. But he could not run. The entire academy was watching Dot, so he just stood there, frozen. While a bleeding human stared him down, Commandant Mira rose from her seat. Her voice echoed across the arena, calm and clear. The duel was valid. Cadet Kang Taiho is the victor. Instructor Val, you will report to my office immediately. Val finally looked away from Taiho's eyes. He nodded jerkily, like a broken machine, and stumbled toward the exit. He did not look back. Taiho watched him go. Then, very slowly, he turned and walked toward the arena doors. Every step was agony. His vision was blurring. His body was failing, but he would not fall. Not here. Not while they were watching. Yuna was waiting at the exit. She caught him as he finally collapsed, holding his weight against her body. Tears ran down her face. You idiot, she whispered. You beautiful, stubborn idiot. Did they see? Taiho asked weakly. His eyes were closing. Yes, everyone saw. Good. He smiled faintly. Then it was worth it. Behind them, hundreds of cadets from dozens of species stared at the blood on the arena floor. They stared at the place where the human had stood. They thought about everything they had just witnessed, and something changed inside them. For the first time, they did not see humans as weak newcomers, as fragile creatures who did not belong among the stars. They saw something else, something that had crawled out of the mud of a small blue planet and refused to stop until it conquered everything in its path. They saw the future, and many of them, in the quiet places of their minds, felt something very much like fear. In the medical bay, Taiho slept. His body healed slowly, but even unconscious, even broken and bleeding, he smiled. Earth had sent him to prove that humans belonged in the galaxy. He had done so much more than that. He had shown them exactly what humanity was, and the galaxy would never forget.